but aren't we in America just we are conditioned to think that capitalism is the key to all things, that that more is always better, right? More is all, it doesn't matter how much you have, but more is always better. So let's look at F. Scott Fitzgerald's Winter Dreams. All right, so let's start with this. Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald, of course, wrote The Great Gatsby. And The Great Gatsby, I think, it's probably my, oh gosh, third favorite book. It's almost perfect, The Great Gatsby. It's almost perfect. And that's why Hemingway was so pissed at, I mean, they were friends, but he was very jealous of Fitzgerald because Fitzgerald, what he thought wrote the perfect book. And Hemingway knew that he could never write like that. And so it created this weird, you ever had a frenemy? Kind of like that. Um, but the great theme of The Great Gatsby and this, I love teaching this story, Winter Dreams, because it is The Great Gatsby in miniature. I can teach everything that he taught, not everything, but most what he taught in The Great Gatsby from this one short story, Winter Dreams. It's right there in the title, Dream. Somebody tell me while I'm marking on this, what is the American dream? What is it when you hear that? What do you think?
I think
Totally. And so it has to do with home ownership for sure. You know, to buy your home, but really it's all about making it right. Like you just said, you have the white picket fence. What is it? Two and a half kids and a dog. Got to have that half kid in there. Um, and it's all about. I mean, and what's the key to all of that? Pretty much money, right? I mean, it's pretty much in this land you can succeed, right? The idea of the American dream is just what you said. It's this idea that um, in this world, there is what's called upward mobility, that you can rise, that you can overcome the station of your birth and become something higher. Abraham Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin, Bill Gates. You can just, these are the ideas, these are the success, rags to riches success stories. It is possible here. Anything is possible. You can start low and end high. I think of Colin Powell. I think of, because there's examples of that. That's the American dream, right? And surely, owning a home and having a husband, wife, kids, all that is squarely right in the middle of it. Um, Fitzgerald's theme is that the American dream is dead. And it's sad, but that's his theme. And it'll take me a minute to get there, but here we go. You remember what it was like when you were a kid and it was Christmas time? It's like you started to dream about your Christmas presents, and I would take my magazines or my catalogs and circle the. And I haven't done this for you guys. No? Okay. All right. I hate to repeat myself. And then I would take these magazines and I would circle and I'd take it to my mom and and I'd have the uh, Star Wars Death Star. I'd have the Millennial Falcon. I'd have some G.I. Joe stuff. I'd have whatever. One year I had a TV, stereo, right? Whatever. And I would obsess because I'd be like, oh man, if I choose the Millennium Falcon, then I may not get this other thing that I mean, I don't want to not get like which. God, I can't choose them both. That's kind of. And so you would obsess about it, and then finally take it. Here's my, you know, and then you start dreaming about it. Every night, man, you just lay in your bed, just you have visions of yourself playing with your new, watching your TV, listening to your stereo. How good, it's all about happiness. Happiness is that it's going to be there. It's going to be there. I'm not today. I mean, I'm just laying in my bed dreaming today, but tomorrow is going to be. And so here you are, and you're dreaming about it. And you can fill this present with anything you want, anything. It can be world peace. It can be a Corvette. It can be if your son has scoliosis, that the spine isn't too crooked. It can be your significant other, your new spouse, your lover. It can be a jilted lover, a lover who's left you to come back. It can be that whatever. It can be anything, whatever you desire. Remember, we talked just a minute about that ambition that is deep within all of us. And that's the spice of life, right? So you're dreaming, and this right here represents the dream, right? You're dreaming, and you fill this with whatever you want, and then you get it. Christmas morning comes, and you stumble down, or at least with me, I'd come down this. Actually, I wouldn't stumble. I'd been up all night. Come on. You know, I slept 2 hours like this. Right? And then finally at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever. And I look, oh man, it's like it's a dream. It's magical. You got the Death Star there. Santa Claus brought it. Somehow he got in it. The Death Star. You got the Millennium Falcon there. You got them both. Who would have thunk it? And then you start out, and then your parents, you go, wake up, right? And they're like, ugh, because they've been up all night putting that crap together. And so they wake up and they're drinking their coffee. Speaking of that. And then they stumble down there and sit down. And you start opening your presents. And man, you pull out, it's the whatever. It's the Barbie. It's the Cabbage Patch Kid. It's the whatever. And you realize as you're stripping, and you even got your Red Ryder BB gun with a compass in the butt, you know, and you realize about halfway through that you're really on a roll, man. And then by the end, you have this horde of loot over there. You got everything you wanted, and you even got some stuff that you didn't know you wanted. Like you pulled it out of there, and you're like, oh my God. I wish I would have known about this because I could have circled it in the magazine, and then I could have dreamt about it. Look at that. I got this, and wow. And then you put all your loot over there and everything, and then you sit back and you look at it, and this is when it happens. What feeling do you feel right there? It's got to be one of the most confusing, darkest moments of your life because you feel a sense of loss. You have this amazing horde of loot, and you're ready to go start playing with it all, but sure, there's not like there's no more. It's over. It's over. Now, how long is it? You're playing with your new remote control car or your whatever you got. Maybe it's a real car. How long is it that your remote control car gives you happiness? Day? A week? How long is it before you start dreaming of the next Christmas? And so you start dreaming about next Christmas or the next boyfriend or the next job or the next. And then what happens when you get it? You start dreaming of the. And then you realize something suddenly. It wasn't, because how long does anything that you put in this box keeps you happy? Not long. And you realize that it really wasn't the Millennium Falcon that you wanted. It wasn't the Barbie. It was the dream. It was the dream that kept you happy. It was the dream that made you wake up. It was a dream that kept you moving in the daytime as you went through all the motions of school. And so does this ever end? I mean, I talked about America. In America, are we taught that you ever get to a level and you're like, yep, that's about it. I'll be happy forever? No. In America, we are taught that more is always better. But a really, really sad things happen. And this, I think, is the cruelest aspect of life. And it's called the law of diminishing returns. So each time that you open a present, each time you have a success, each time you gain a new possession, win an enterprise, whatever, each time it happens, the joy that you feel and receive from that new thing, from that new conquest, that new object, is diminished just a little bit. And that's why they call it the law of diminishing returns. So it gets, even the dreaming of it gets smaller, 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 until when you become very wealthy and you get to the top, there's nothing else to want. You know? You have everything. All of the sensations have been felt. All of the enchanted objects have been conquered. And you know from hard experience that even if there was another thing, it won't bring you happiness. You'll just start dreaming of the next thing. Where, do I ask you, do you cut this off? If you're a Buddhist, and I can tell you the whole story of Siddhartha and the Bodhi tree, if you're a Buddhist, you cut it off right here. You tell yourself, the way to avoid this never-ending chain of desire. In fact, the Buddhists say that life is pain, and the cause of your pain is desire. So for a Buddhist, you cut it off right here. You don't desire. You don't have anything. You just don't desire. To me, that is a circular desire. It's just the same thing, only it's desiring not to desire and struggling against that. I don't know. Where does it stop? Where does this become greed? Right? We talked about it. When it starts to hurt other people, and there lies the problem. In America, we don't have any agreed upon level of wealth and power that is enough. It does not exist. It's not taught. It's not taught in churches, to the best of my knowledge. It's not taught in, where do you go to get that information? Should be from your parents. They don't know. They're still trying to get their BMW. So I guess I'm going to teach some semblance of it now, because I think it's when it starts to hurt other people, right? At some point along the way, you change from ambitious to greedy. Now, here's what I would say to kind of end that, by the way, to bring it full circle. That is, I messed up. That is Fitzgerald's great theme, is that in the beginning of America, this could lead you to ascend, to gain the American dream. But once, can you see that? Yeah. But America is like a pyramid scheme, right? You move upwards, but once the first group got to the top, then what they did is they turned around and kicked you down and made sure you can't get up. And so at the beginning, the American dream was spectacular. You read the last part of Great Gatsby. So I'm reminded of those old Dutch sailors who beheld this continent for the first time. Man, they must have held their breath. But it was only the first wave. And then after that, this point at which we became greedy, that's when you start knocking the others down. So I look and I see people of color. I see women. You know, America's rigged against us all. It's doubly rigged against people of color. That's uncomfortable, but it's true. The degree of difficulty is harder. I'm readily willing to admit that I've had advantages from being basically the color of a dead body. Sorry. America is a tough place. It's a place where sharks eat sharks. It's not easy for anybody. It's harder for women to make it to the top. It's harder for people of color. And I don't mind going on record saying that. I mean, we want to change it, right? But we do. We're making progress. We're making progress, but not enough. Okay, my message to you. We're almost done, and we'll get. I mean, we're going to continue the Winter Dreams because I want to really analyze it. My message to you is to break this cycle, and it's hard to do, but I suck at this. Dream big dreams. Not little things, I'm talking big things. Dream something you'll never succeed at getting. Why not try to save the world? Then the law of diminishing returns it's not the end all be all, but maybe it helps. Maybe it helps. And the people who have not done this, like Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain, I mean, they committed suicide. But the people who have done this, like Bill Gates, what's he trying to do? Save the world. He's never going to succeed. Warren Buffett, they become great philanthropists, right? But you don't have to be rich to do this. Just try to cure cancer. Try to do something, try to solve homelessness. Do something good. Do something that is for the common good and not just you, and doesn't hurt anybody, but helps. And I think that's a great message. It's a great message. Okay, back to Winter Dreams. And man, that was a lot, right? There's this famous clip from a movie called Wall Street where it says greed. Greed is good. It's not good. It's not good. America is supposed to be about withholding judgment. It's supposed to be about starting on a level plane. All men, humans, are created equal, right? It's supposed to be that. But we haven't lived up to that yet, have we? We haven't lived up to it. In fact, I would say some people are treated very differently than others. We need to fix this. But that's one of Fitzgerald's great themes, is that America is supposed to reserve judgment, but it doesn't. And that is like the death of this American dream. Okay. We have Dexter. Heck of a name. Dexter is a caddy at a very prestigious country club, Lake Ermine. And he's a young guy, and he's the best caddy of all, right? Now, I think that something is interesting about Fitzgerald. And with this amount of time, I don't want to spend too much on it, but to me, spring is about redemption, is about newness, is about freshness, is about let's start over. It's a new day. For Fitzgerald, it's winter. Autumn for him is that. And that's interesting to me. To me, winter is very drab. I don't know. It's like Texas, it's winter. Now, don't use the last few weeks as an example, but winter is usually 55 degrees and drizzling with green trees everywhere because they're cedar. And that to me, I don't know, but for Fitzgerald, he says, fall made him clench his hands and tremble and repeat idiotic sentences to himself and make brisk, abrupt gestures of command to imaginary audiences and armies. He's dreaming. And you guys, dreaming is the thing. Dreaming is life. It is. Dreaming is the thing. You got to dream. When I traveled around the world with my family, it started with a dream. When I created the apps that let me do it, it started with a dream, you know? When I made my novels, which are so successful and saved the world, not, I think 5 people read them, but still, it started with a dream, right? And that was a very long dream. But dreaming is everything. So you got to set your mind on it and go for it, right? You can't, and dream big dreams. I'm speaking a negative thing right here, but it is true. America is, it could be a lot worse, couldn't it? It could be a lot worse. You could have woken up in, Uruguay or something. If you're a woman, you could have woken up in Saudi Arabia. They just now are able to drive. So, okay. So dream big dreams. Now here we are with this. This is about on the surface, it's about love, love. And it's about, oh gosh, they have this idea of unrequited love. Unrequited love is the kind of love that you never consummate. You love, and you may both love each other, but it just never happens, right? But in this case, sometimes it's actually worse to get it, right? Because it is exactly this. I love you so much, and then you get it. You just finds out maybe it wasn't what you thought. But for Fitzgerald, both in Gatsby and in this present is a woman. But the woman represents way more. She represents happiness. She represents fulfillment. She represents the attainment of the dream. She represents that feeling of butterflies, and it's the best feeling. It's the best feeling. Love, true love. And you'll know it when you don't have to feel like, well, do I love? If you have to ask, then you're not in love. Okay. So he quits his job as the caddy because Judy Jones comes, and she's this cute little girl. I mean, come on, she's 11 at that point, but he's 14. And then time moves on and they meet again. Now I want to say something about ages here. He made money. Fitzgerald's all about musings on the rich, but he made money. He became wealthy, and then he got to be 23 here, and then later on he's 27. But you guys, I want you to know that. See, I made maybe an error, and if my wife is listening, she would agree. We've been married 20 years, but man, we got married, she was 24, I was 26. That's too damn young. Okay. Too young. You think you're old and it's time to settle down. To hell with that. Okay. All right. So this is, they're very much in their youth. He becomes wealthy. And as he achieves that wealth, he comes to understand that maybe it's not all it was cracked up to be.